So in our last video, we were looking at all of the reasons why digital pianos are turning more heads than ever, particularly people with previous acoustic piano experience. So did I just say that digitals were better than acoustics? Absolutely not. The problem with keeping this stuck in a binary argument, like one is automatically better than the other, is that really for the first time in history, we've got overlap. The most advanced digital pianos are now better, in my opinion, than the most basic acoustic pianos. Plus, they're bringing together all sorts of other conveniences. And that's what that video was about. So setting aside price and convenience, which really was at the center of our last video, let's flip the script now and explore why a premium acoustic piano is never going to be beat by a digital anytime soon. So at the top of the list is a reality of physics, and that is that an acoustic piano with high quality strings, high quality soundboard, and something that's probably a little larger is simply able to deliver more complex audio information to your ear. In fact, when we take a look at a note played, in this instance, Concert A440, on the highest quality digital piano I could get my hands on, and then play that on an upper mid-range grand piano of the same brand, we can see dramatic differences in the number of partials and harmonics that the acoustic piano is able to deliver to your ear. Not only that, but those partials are better organized and structured, and they're sustaining longer and in a more even way. Simply put, typical commercial grade speakers and amplifiers simply are not able to deliver 12 partials worth of tone. Now, some of you might be saying, well, that's all well and good, but the human ear can't even hear a 12th partial off A440. And while that may be technically true, it isn't just that. When you start blending 5, 6, 8, 10, 20 notes together, it's how all of those extended upper partials now start to interact and blend and create all of these additional secondary harmonics that we're hearing. So while many musicians aren't going to break it down in such a technical way, and they might be using terms like richness or connection with the tone, simply put, a typical speaker and amplifier configuration just can't come close to the level of complexity that a string and soundboard system in an acoustic piano can produce. Next for me is dynamic range. I have never made the claim that a great digital piano is going to mimic the dynamic range of a grand. In fact, the best digital pianos for me are only approaching what you might be able to get out of a 44-inch console upright. So then when we move into, say, 52-inch upright pianos or 6-foot grand pianos, the range of tone and just sheer volume output from soft to loud is far more extensive than what you're going to get out of a digital piano, even in the most premium categories. So the next difference is the size and type of the sound source. When we're talking about speakers, even if you've got 4, 5, 6 speakers pointed at you, those are all spot sources of tone. And you can compare this to light. If you've got 2 bright light bulbs shining at you versus a panel of light shining at you, one is very ambient, it surrounds you with light, and there's no specific directionality or source, versus these other very, very sharp sources of light, or as we're talking about with pianos, sound. The whole piano is resonating rather than just being a speaker here and a speaker there. It's coming off the soundboard, which is a massive square inch area to be resonating, but then you've also got cabinet resonance coming off the side as well. There simply isn't any speaker system out there on a piano that is being mass produced that can replicate that kind of ambient tone source. Next is the fact that that sound source is omnidirectional. The sound is leaving a piano in virtually all directions, which means that depending on the acoustics of a room, you're going to have multitude of cascading sound sources hitting your ears, not just what is leaving the piano and going straight to your ear. You've got some bouncing off the floor, you've got some bouncing off the ceiling, and especially with an upright piano, a significant amount of tone bouncing off the wall that the piano's sitting in front of. All of that contributes to the prior point we just made, which is you have this ambient sound source rather than something that's highly directional. And your ear hears that in a much more environmental, immersive way. Next, for sure, would be a really great acoustic piano action versus what you can find on a digital, even at the very top range. If we take a look at a piano such as a C. Bechstein or a Bösendorfer or a Fazioli, the number of hours of regulation that are going into that action to make sure that it's behaving perfectly at every single velocity and dynamic range is insane. Not just dozens, but sometimes hundreds of hours by the most highly skilled craftspeople in our industry. The next one is something that almost never gets talked about by either side on this argument, but it's absolutely the truth, and it's the soft pedal. Digital pianos seldom, if ever, actually mimic the behavior of the soft pedal properly. Not only do most piano companies not bother to put the same level of sampling or reproduction into the tone when it becomes affected by the left pedal, but that left pedal doesn't change the feel of the keys itself. And of course, we know particularly in upright pianos, it has a huge effect on how the keys actually behave and feel. You could also argue that in a grand piano, it doesn't just change the timbre of the keys, but it changes your entire relationship with the keys in terms of its dynamic response. So for people who are real finesse players, that absence of that change in feel and tone as authentically as you get on an acoustic piano can be a big missing musical gap on a digital. My next point may be fairly obvious, but it's worth stating anyway. Great acoustic pianos are built to last a century. There's no digital piano out there that is going to have that kind of longevity, and therefore, no digital piano is going to have that kind of resale value. And when you're purchasing an acoustic piano in the upper price ranges, you're buying it potentially for multi-generational use. You're buying it because of the resale value. You're buying it because you really resonated with the company or the story behind this instrument. And probably, of course, because you really loved the music it produced. And the idea that you can have something that's been made of natural materials that lasts 100 years in itself has appeal. But practically speaking, the longevity really just is not a contest. Great digitals are going to give you 10 to 20 years. Great acoustics are going to give you 100 years plus. And then my last point, which I might get some pushback on this, but there is a certain charm and connection you feel with an organic instrument that is going to have slightly morphing and changing imperfections over time. When you play a great acoustic piano, particularly a grand where you can really hear the open tone, and you just let a chord sort of shimmer there, you hear all sorts of undulating interference harmonics happening that is going to be almost impossible to experience on a digital piano. And the great thing is, it's going to be slightly different every single time you play that chord. There's a certain unpredictability and a certain give and take that you have with an acoustic piano that really forms the basis of a musical relationship. Perhaps there are little moments and spots of magic within each acoustic piano. And so part of the charm is finding those little elements that are slightly different about that piano than the other instrument. And I can certainly remember sitting down at specific instruments where even just one note touched me in such a way that it totally changed how I approached the instrument, the keys that I liked to play in on that piano, and the style of music that immediately it drew out of me. And so when I hear other pianists talking and describing those same types of experiences, and then trying to reconcile that with our commentary on how digital pianos are so great, I understand where sometimes there's going to be some clash, because it feels like they're at odds with one another. But to flip to the other side of the spectrum, we have magical machines at our disposal with great acoustic pianos. And I'll be the last person to deny that that's the case and the first person to line up and play them. So I'd love to hear some of your great experiences about magical pianos that you had a chance to sit down that really kind of changed you. Thank you so much for watching. My name's Stu Harrison. This has been Merriam Pianos on YouTube. Hope you'll be back for even more videos in the future, and have a great day.